up and move down buttons. So back in index, we have our little template, which makes it very easy for us to add a couple more buttons. So I'll add them to the left of star, above star in the markup. So make a button with a class of move-up and a class of button. And give that a child that is an I element with a class of FA. And, let's search for up. Arrow-up looks good. FA and FA-arrow up. Oh yeah, and we want to put our extra attribute on there for the sake of accessibility. And then we'll make one just like it for down. So move down button, FA arrow down. Et voila. Arrows is. Now how about we make move up actually work? Back in app.js, inside render list item, where we attach event handlers to all these buttons. We need another one. I'm going to copy the one we did for fave. Button dot move dash up, and on click, instead of calling fave dino, I'm going to call move camel case up. And I will again bind this, and I will again pass the dino as another argument. Because I know I'm going to have to mess with the order of the dino inside the array, as well as changing the DOM. So let's add that right here. Move up. And just like fave dino, don't forget your comma, dino will be passed in first, followed by the event. The one that we manually pass in is first in the argument list, followed by the event. Again, we'll probably need to mess with the list item. So what do we actually need to do? How do we move it up in the list visually? Change it in the DOM. What method did you use? What DOM method? Zoe? Insert before. We used that once before, right? So you call that on the parent, which would be list item, right? List item dot insert before. And then what it is you're inserting. Sorry, not list item, the list. So the list we actually saved to this dot list a long time ago, making it easy to get to. So this dot list, insert before, and what are we inserting? The list item. What are we inserting it before? Previous sibling to move it up. So list item dot previous sibling. Make sense? Just inserting it before whatever's before it right now. So then they'll be in the right order. So if I click move up, that seems to do it. Now there's previous sibling and previous element sibling. Previous sibling could match a text node. Now we know it's not going to in this app, but you could use that to be just a little safer if you want. What happens when we get to the top? Up, 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 up. Is that expected behavior? That's no good. I don't like it. So we should stop that from happening. So before we actually move the thing, we could check to see if it's already the first. And if it's the first, we don't move it anymore. And maybe the easiest way to do that would be to start worrying about the array and see if that makes it a little easier for us. So let's move it within the array. Right now we're moving it around in the DOM, but the array still has it in the wrong order. So what do we do? Search through it looking for the ID till we find the right index? Or instead of a for loop, we could do it the easy way and use findIndex. The findIndex method returns the index of the first element in the array that satisfies the provided testing function. So just like map, we're going to pass a function in as an argument to findIndex. You'll see it calls that parameter a callback when you pass one function as a method, as an argument to another function. That's called a callback. So the array is this dot dinos, right? List is the actual unordered list on the page for presentation. This dot dinos is where the data really lives. So this dot dinos dot findIndex. And we're going to pass it a function. Instead of using function like this, or passing in a named function, because this is going to be a one-liner, we'll just make it an arrow function. Pretty common with callbacks when you're using ES6. So the callback will receive as its first argument the element, just like map did. So say current dino, whichever one you're at in the array. The next one will be the index, so I. The last one will be the array itself. I don't think we're going to use that, so I'm not going to bother putting it in there. Remember, it doesn't enforce the number of arguments. And then what it needs to do is this function needs to return true or false depending on whether it's the right one. And whenever it hits the right one, findIndex will then return that index. It won't return what we type in here. We're going to have it return true or false. It'll return the index when it hits one that finally returns true. So what we could say is return current dino.id triple equal dino.id. So dino, remember, was passed in here. That's the actual dino object that we're messing with. Current dino is the current one in the array as it's looping through. So it's going to call this arrow function for every item in the array until this returns true. And then it'll stop and it'll return I. So we'll save that to a variable, const index. So then we could say, if it's not the first one. By the way, you'll notice -1 is returned if it wasn't found at all. So if it's not found, it's -1. What if it's the first one? What if it's the first thing in the array? It returns. So if it's greater than 0, then it's not the first one. So we could say if index greater than 0. Then we really want to do this. Refresh. Now if we try to move it past the top, but it still did it that time. Let's refresh again. Now it's not letting me. That did on Stegosaurus, interestingly. Oh yeah, because we're not rearranging the array. So it won't let you move the thing that's on top at first, but since we're not reordering the array when we move the elements in the DOM, That's as far as it goes. So we need to do that. We need to change it in the array. So we should find the previous one and then change that index to point to the dinosaur we're moving, and then change the index that it used to live at to the previous dinosaur. Make sense? So like this. Let's say const previous dino, and that would be this dot dinos, not this dot list. That's the UL, remember. This dot dinos index -1. So whatever's before it in the list. And then, having done that, darn it. We can set this dot dinos index -1 to dino, and this dot dinos index to previous dino. We're just swapping places. Save that, try it out, move T-Rex up, and it can't move any further. So that worked. What if we refresh the page, though? Nope. Why not? We have to save, right? We changed the array. So this dot save to persist those changes. And I do it inside the if. If it's outside the if, then nothing changed. So now, refresh with that change in place. Let's move T-Rex up to the very top. Let's move Codosaurus up 1. Let's refresh. And everything is still in the same order. So there is our move up function. I will copy and paste this into Slack.